Hello and welcome to Breaking It All Down. I'm Count Zero. We've finally come to the last of the big opening E3 press conferences, well after E3 is actually concluded. Yes, again, I'm slow, but this is finals week. And hey, it's not my fault that the ESA doesn't have the interests of college students in mind when it comes to scheduling press conferences and general major events and that sort of thing. Oh well. What you gonna do? So, we start with the orchestrated arrangement of Legends of Zelda music, which makes me really kind of want to see more stuff like this. I mean, we got Video Games Live, and that's awesome. We have the Final Fantasy Distant Worlds thing, which is also awesome, but we can always do with more. And actually, for that matter, I would love to see like a group like Trans-Siberian Orchestra do their take on video game music. You can even just do like one album of Legend of Zelda, one album of Final Fantasy, one album of Ninja Gaiden, or Castlevania, or what have you. Somebody get on this. Multiple people get on this. Anybody. Just get on it. Now, I'd pay money for this. Anyway, this leads to a little montage setting up that Legend of Zelda is now 25 years old, which makes me feel slightly old because I'm a year older than Legend of Zelda. Okay. And out comes Shigeru Miyamoto. So, no Link get-up this time, no sword, no shield, nothing really too silly. That's fine. Shigeru's translator was going at the exact same time Shigeru was going. I don't know if this is to try to keep Shigeru from rambling or keep him on message or on time or within time limits or that sort of thing. But it did feel kind of rude that you're talking this way to the guy one of the guys who basically helped make Nintendo the way it is today, the powerhouse of video games that it was today, helped it revive the video game industry from the near doldrums of the end of the video game crash. Whatever. Anyway, it just felt really rude to me. We got some video stream glitches also during this. Just goes to show that Nintendo just can't catch a break with their press conferences. We don't do a Wii demo and any live demos, but instead we get stream glitches. Anyway, who knows what they'll do next time. As far as for it reminds me of some of the bizarre glitches we've had with Microsoft press conferences, actually. Anyway, Link at the time of the press conference, Link's Awakening had just become available as a 3DS Virtual Console download, which means the time you're watching this now, it is definitely up. Virtual Console update is up for 3DS, and we now have a really awesome game available for 3DS. Yay. I don't own a 3DS. Boo. Somebody buy me one. One of you watching. That we can review 3DS games. Or, I don't know. Anyway, we also, DSiWare is getting 4 swords. Ocarina of Time is coming to 3DS. It's getting a second quest, or something like a second quest on there, which is kind of interesting. That's a concept that Nintendo's never really revisited in their games outside of the first Legend of Zelda. The first one, famously, for those who haven't played the first one and beaten it, you beat the game the first time, you unlock the second quest, where you get to go through the game again and play it, and then try and collect the piece of the Triforce, except now everything's shuffled around. Where once was a dungeon, now there might be a shop. Where there was once a shop, now a dungeon, so your map that you drew and all that is kind of the same, as far as the environments are shaped the same and that sort of thing, but now you have reason to go explore everything again. So on one hand, you have a head start. because you know, okay, this is where chaos will be. But on the other hand, you got nothing. You're coming fairly cold. Also, they're doing a few new things for Legend of Zelda's anniversary. They're doing a traveling classical music concert tour of various Legend of Zelda music. And to go with this, they're also having a album with music from the concert that's going to be sold in stores. And then if you buy Ocarina of Time 3DS, the first group of people who register the game through Nintendo's online service will get a free copy of the soundtrack, which is a very nice touch. And again, if I had a 3DS, I would go for this, just because the Legend of Zelda series has some of the best video game music outside of Mario and Final Fantasy, and in terms of really melodic, memorable pieces, as opposed to just environmental music. Next up comes Satoru Iwata. Talks about the theme of the presentation being deeper and wider, appealing to a wider audience while providing deeper gameplay. It's, just speaking from a high concept standpoint, it's laudable, but as comes up mentioned later, is you're shooting really high. Now, if you hit your mark, then that's really awesome, and in theory, this would bring Nintendo into an even stronger video game market standpoint. But if you flub it, you could either end up watering down your brands or alienating part of your fan base or new consumers. I mean, this is deeper and wider is something that, heck, the comics industry has been shooting for years, for appealing to a wider audience while providing deeper narrative and deeper stories and that sort of thing. Every sort of niche fan base has tried to reach this. Not but niche medium has tried to reach this, and not everyone succeeded. Film got lucky. Well, not got lucky. Film managed to pull this off. I don't know what it'll take to get this for movies, not movies, but for video games. For video games to be achieved that same as the movies. But anyway, that's something for the extra credits series of videos on The Escapist. If you aren't watching that yet, I strongly recommend watching those at escapistmagazine.com. So we get a teaser showing off some upcoming titles for 3DS. We get Mario Kart, Star Fox, the already announced Kid Icarus game, the already announced Mario game, and Luigi's Mansion 2. Kind of interested with these. It does give the Nintendo 3DS something which has been missing before, which is like really recognizable names. If you go and talk about the 3DS and what games to get for the 3DS, there isn't a lot. The system didn't ship with any really big killer apps. Anything that says, okay, I need to buy a 3DS for this game, for this Metroid title, for a Legend of Zelda game, for that sort of thing. Everything that everything that we want for the 3DS hasn't come out yet. It's coming late in it's coming in the second wave of titles. But now it's been announced, we now know what's to come, and we know what to expect, and that's good. Reggie Fils-Aime comes out, comes out, basically, it starts out point that we, as gamers, we want it all, we want it all, we want it all, and we want it now. Apologies to Queen. So they have a lock on some of the upcoming titles, or a look. Sorry, I can't read my own handwriting. Look at upcoming titles. Again, a lot of the stuff that we saw in the trailer already. Mario Kart now with added hang gliders. So adding a little bit of three-dimensional stuff, as far as, not in the sense of popping out of the screen at you, but in terms of how the gameplay is managed, which I can't see that being any more than a gimmick at all. Star Fox, which lets you steer by tilting the tilting the unit, presumably if you have 3D off. Could work, might not. I'm not going. Depends on how you handle executing stuff like doing a barrel roll. If I have to spin the thing in my hands and do a barrel roll, not going to be interesting, and it would look stupid doing this in the waiting room. Can I share with voice acting? The voice acting is okay. Nothing I would write home about at all. In fact, I might even switch off to Japanese voice acting, possibly. We have multiplayer with a sort of team deathmatch mode, which could be interesting. As has been seen in some previous gameplay footage stuff, it looks like Space Harrier, but with the little Cupid Angel, not Cupid Angel, but with Pit. So this could work. Space Harrier is a somewhat fairly fun game. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it could work. We'll have to see. They also have augmented reality stuff with cards. You can have them battle. It looks like Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't mean in the sense of like the rules of the card game, because I've never played the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game, but it reminds me of how in Yu-Gi-Oh! They play the cards, and then the little monster or character pops up on the cards and that sort of thing. On the one hand, hey, real world, I mean, they'll appeal for kids, I guess, but that's not my thing. More on the eShop. They have a 3D version of Classic Excite Bike. They have the Pokédex 3D, which is just an augmented reality thing. And then finally, we have our new console, formerly known as Cafe, now finally officially given the name of the WiiU. Really, the WiiU. It looks kind of like a cross between a regular controller and sort of an augmented reality thing. It's got a big touch screen in the middle of it. There are pictures online, but anyway, big touch screen in the middle, buttons by both hands, and there's a camera on the front, plus speakers, and a headphone jack of some kind. The headphone jack with speakers, microphone, that sort of thing on the front. I don't know if there's a headphone jack. I kind of hope there is. Just because part of the thing that they bill it as doing in the presentation is that if somebody else wants to watch a program on the television, or they need to get the volume down because they're trying to sleep in the room or work on something or that sort of thing, you can then turn the TV off and take the game from the system and put it on the controller. You still have to have the system kind of close by, I presume, because it's still streaming the data from the system to the screen on the controller, but that's still there. And I would hope for that option there would be a headphone jack on the controller, or some headphone connection on the controller, so that rather than having to deal with volume levels on that, you can still get your audio for your Metroid or what have you on that. It does look fun. It does look interesting. I could see this being an interesting way to provide sort of DS-esque gameplay on the system, as far as like in Etrian Odyssey, for example. On your main screen, on the upper screen, you have your view of the dungeon. You have a little glimpse of your stats for your party members and that sort of thing. Then the bottom screen, that's where you would use your stylus to draw dungeon maps. And this would work really well for a game like Etrian Odyssey there, or any sort of dungeon crawl game which either uses a semi-auto map for keeping track of the dungeon, or kind of partial auto map kind of thing. Or a partial auto map being part draw yourself, part rewrite. Alright, but part draw yourself, part it maps for you, like Etrian Odyssey. And if you decide to do a classic style Might and Magic game on there, if you decided to take like an Elder Scrolls game on there, if you were to do some of the new Wizardry games from Japan and put it on there, that would be the perfect way to go. Oh, and also, definitely HD. This is very much an HD system. We get several tech demo footage of the game, and it looks really good. And it looks really, really good. Absolutely like HD graphics. So, I mean, we're not getting like really major gameplay stuff in here. Most of anything gameplay-esque is tech demo-y, but it's not it's not baloney in terms of what we're seeing here. Looks like what the hardware can do, and it looks much more powerful than what we've seen from the Wii in the past. Wii U is also getting a sort of, looks like an MMO-ish game called Lego City Stories, or at least open world game from the Telltale Games people. Vicarious Visions doing some stuff. We then get a sizzle reel from various developers talking about how awesome the Wii U is. Big names too, like Warren Spector, Ken Levine. I'm surprised we didn't see Hideo Kojima on here. Whenever we get new gaming technology, usually Hideo Kojima was perfectly willing to come out and talk about how awesome the new technology is. Specific titles we see some of Darksiders 2, we see Batman Arkham City, we see a Tekken game, we see Assassin's Creed, and Ghost Recon Online. I don't know how many there's going to be launch titles, if any of them, but the fact that we're able to more easily take these main gameplay experiences from other consoles and bring them to here says good things for the kind of library we'll get for the Wii U when its time comes. Mine aside, again, also bears mentioning, since everyone else has, the name isn't great. It doesn't quite flow off the tongue as either the Wii or GameCube or Super Nintendo / SNES or NES or anything like that does. We'll have to see. We get a Zelda thing. It's a little bit of Zelda tutorial, video demo stuff for the Wii U. We get look at Alien Colonial Marines, which is apparently still a thing, coming out, and Metro 2033 Last Light is coming out, followed by Ninja Gaiden 3. All for the Wii U. So this is a really impressive lineup. All this stuff is probably going to come out well after it's come out on other systems. If the Wii U comes out next year, I could see there being, unless all these games have ports in the works right now, then I could see there being if say all these games, or the large chunk of these games, are set to come out holiday 2012, first quarter 2012, I could see them in the Wii U versions coming out 6 to 9 months later, maybe a year, depending on the game, depending on whether they want to, how they're going to handle the Wii U stuff in the game. I mean, Ninja Gaiden's probably going to be played pretty much the same on either system, with Wii U using the buttons on the side, and maybe with the screen in the middle showing combo information, maybe, or subscreen stuff, or reach over with your thumb, tap your healing item, use that more quickly in combat. I mean, it's kind of tacked on, but it's a way you could do it. John Riccitiello of EA comes out, talks about the system some more, and that's that. And that's the end of the E3 press conferences. Next week, I should have an opportunity to finally go through various game trailer releases, from Game Trailers, from Giant Bomb, from other sites, get a better idea of some of the other games that were shown off at E3, and get some ideas of games which I hadn't heard of and might be interested in playing, or games which I was interested in playing, but maybe perhaps the information I've gotten on them has made me a little less interested. And I'll try and get all that for you, and get a couple of videos, 1 or 2 videos ready next week. See you then.
cat.